Hello guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. This time we do a Shin Megami Tensei CREEPYPASTA, aptly named Shin Megami Tensei, If Incident. I honestly never thought I'd be here, writing and accounting the strange incident that happened to me about a month or so ago. I originally was going to decide to forget the whole ordeal never happened, and continue to move on with my life, but lately I've been thinking about it again in my mind, and decided to come here and write about it. Be it for your own amusement, or to hear an interesting story about something that you might consider unnerving or just plain absurd. I'm writing it down to give other people a forewarning if you decide to do what I did. And not to discourage you from doing it, to be prepared for the things that might be in store for you. I don't know if you're a major RPG fan like I am, but if you know about Shin Megami Tensei, you most likely are as well. It's a very popular and long-running JRPG series from Atlas that has been around for more than 20 years now or so. It's the third most popular JRPG series behind Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. Most of the game's mechanics are you're fighting demons as enemies, and you'll be able to talk to them into joining you in your struggle against whatever the main malevolent force of the game is, and you use them as your other party members. And you can also fuse multiple demons to make more powerful ones, fuse those for better ones, etc. It's a mature-themed Pokemon series, essentially. For the most part, I've been able to play all of them. I've always been looking for good ones, good RPGs to hold up my time. So Shin Megami Tensei has always been a series I've been very fond of. The only ones I haven't been able to play are the original MXF Famicom games, which haven't been translated into English, not yet at least. Since I've read there's a fan translation project, there's several of them that are in progress for those. One game in the series that always piqued my interest though is Shin Megami Tensei. If it's a spin-off of the main series for the Super Famicom and it's considered a side story, or a gaiden in its original Japanese tongue, to the original game where apparently it concerns a what-if situation in which the final events of the original game were different. It also uses the same demon-taming mechanics behind creating parties, but uses another unique leveling mechanic that I won't indulge in now. I'm sure there's enough information for you all to know about this game that I was dealing with in this event that I'm about to tell you. One of the main reasons it catches my eye is because it's a very hard game to translate. Even fan translation groups have trouble just trying to decode the game in their first steps. The main reason why it's such a challenge to translate it is the way it stores its font and lettering. Where most games usually leave their fonts out in the open, SMT, if has all its fonts compressed, this wouldn't normally be an issue, but it doesn't unpack all its letters instantly. It unpacks its letters individually, which makes usual workarounds very ineffective. For the sake of not digressing and not sounding too technical, I'll stop explaining why it's so hard to decode. Basically, if you want the short version, the way it stores its text and font files is very weird. Anyways, after reading about the reasons why it was so hard to translate and my own impatience getting the better of me, I decided to download a ROM of the game and also run a Japanese word processor on the side and try to decipher some of the font and language myself. I was too stubborn and impatient to wait for the fan translation to finish up. This is where the story fully starts. I went to a trustworthy ROM site I've been familiar with for years that have had a good ROM of the game and downloaded and ran it on my emulator. Nothing was out of place, a little opening monologue in Japanese explaining how it was a normal day, then suddenly something horrible happened, then creepy music played while the title for Shin Megami Tensei If appeared. Usually the opening for older SMT games. Anyways, I pressed start and was taken to a black screen. I wasn't named yet, so it was just a blank character name. Suddenly, my character was standing in front of the fortune teller machine. I put some of the characters the fortune teller was speaking in the processor and tried to decipher it into English. I'll be doing this for the rest of the story, so I don't have to keep explaining how I was able to understand what was read, and also to help you understand what was being said yourself. I am a virtual fortune teller. Welcome to my virtual world. You too want to have me tell your fortune? Well, in that case, tell me what gender you are. I get the two obvious choices, male-female. I've always been one to follow canon when it comes to storylines, and since canonically the hero of If is a female, I chose a woman. Now please tell me your name, the fortune teller replied. Again, one to follow continuity, I entered in Tamaki as her name. So that's it, right? The fortune teller replied. Of course, I answered yes. Now please answer my following questions. These questions are unique in that they determine your signature combat type depending on how you answer. I chose to answer honestly this time and play however the game determined me. Do you love video games? This one's a no-brainer. Otherwise, why would I be playing a Japanese game while on a word processor? I picked yes. Do you do your homework properly? Yeah. How many people do you prefer being with? I chose like 2 or 3 people. I prefer just a small group. This is where I first got thrown off guard though. The next question the fortune teller asked was definitely something I wasn't expecting. Do you feel like you waste your life away by playing these games and not doing anything worthwhile with yourself? I was taken back a bit by this suddenly strange question. I paused the game to look up other translating FAQs about the game, and this question wasn't listed in any of the others that are programmed in the game to be asked. I was a little weirded out, but I chose no. Interesting, the fortune teller said in reply to my answer. Do you think you can handle what your upcoming journey with us will entail, no matter what horrors await? I don't know if this question was serious, or simply just a reassuring question to introduce the game. I simply chose yes once again. Then the fortune teller predicted my playstyle. You possess strength beyond that of ordinary people. It is not merely physical, but also mental capacity. No small thing is too much for you, but while it is good to live a life of strength, to live without worry, to always look forward and move accordingly, beware, if you push yourself, always push yourself your way in, you will have to face failures. You may think you can handle most of anything, but you must be weary. Your mind might not be able to handle every situation. I thought the way he interpreted my playstyle was interesting. I've always been a physical attacker when it comes to games, and I do seem to think of myself as a sturdy mind. I wasn't creeped out or nervous by his very good accurate fortune prediction. If anything, I was impressed. The fortune teller then vanished. The screen cut to black again for a few seconds until another figure approaches me in a white uniform. It was a boy and the main villain. I've already read in other plot synopses of the game that this boy is the main antagonist of the game. Welcome to my world. Until yesterday, superior as I was to all who knew me, was merely human. But now I have gained all-knowing and all-seeing power, and became ruler of Makai. And to be granted a privilege of beholding a grand ruler like myself, truly you should count yourself blessed. Even you who observe these events through the eyes of another should be grateful. From now on, whether you live or whether you die, your whole destiny is in my hands. I shall do my best to keep both of us entertained. I was a bit puzzled by that speech, especially the piece of text that read, "You who observe these events through the eyes of another." He most likely could have been talking about me, the player. I started to think of the idea that the game was communicating with me. Instantly, I thought this idea was above all else just plain absurd, so I simply just thought this was supposed to be said in the game, just part of the story, and continued on with it. The boy leaves as more text appears reading. "Hey, how long are you going to sleep for? Tamaki? Tamaki, the school is out already!" Then I appear in what appeared to be an empty classroom as another girl stands before me. Haven't been the same person that said that. A student appears before me. "Had a good sleep, did you? Makes me jealous. Me, I don't sleep very well recently. I've been having these strange nightmares. Well, I'm off. See you." The student then left the screen suddenly, and almost instantly the classroom shook with the force of an earthquake. When it finally stopped, the classroom was much more darker. Outside the windows, where it was sunny and looked like a normal day, was a mass of purple clouds. After this happened, a few more student sprites appeared, panicking and having a stereotypical argument about how we're all going to die and we need to run away. But wait, we need to calm down, etc. I now have to control myself. I was able to move around the areas of the classroom. The design of the game is you move around in a first-person perspective as you move into place to look around the areas of rooms you're in. I looked at the door and attempted to leave, and as I did, a girl by the name of Yumi got in the way. "I was looking for you, Tamaki. We need to talk. Listen, we're all trapped in the school. Something's wrong outside. It's almost as if the school is thrown into a different world. I have a bad feeling. The whole thing. It's not going to be settled easily. No, it's not even that. It's more like that we must do something, for all the students here are lost. Please help me to save the school and everybody else. Tamaki, come with me." This is a slightly crucial part of the story. You can only have one other human character to join your party, and when you choose one of the 3 human characters, it will change how the storyline is going to play out. I chose no, as her storyline path isn't the one I'm more interested in playing. "No, I see. I guess that was a bit sudden of me, but I have to investigate what's happening and there isn't much time left." She leaves and I'm finally able to exit the room and explore the school. My first course of action is to acquire weapons and armor. After looking at another translation FAQ for the next area to lead to, I led my character head to the storeroom for a pickle as a weapon. I can't translate it accurately, but I do know it's your starting weapon to equip. Then I exited and headed for the school club room on the same floor and got a full set of starting armor. The next event I'm supposed to initiate is at the gym, but I can't until I paired myself up with whichever other character I want to partner up with. The character I'm most interested in partnering with is a girl named Raiko. She's the most difficult to get and her storyline path is the most interesting. After exploring all the school, which is a requirement to make her appear, I looked at the game map and headed for the music room on the first floor. She was there waiting for me. "You're Tamaki from Class 2D, aren't you?" What are you doing here? Did somebody tell you to come here, or did you come of your own accord? You seem pretty calm considering the circumstances. It's rather unlike you. It's almost as if you're not yourself right now. But right now is not the time to merely sit back and watch how things go. We're in another world. Unfortunately, I can't explain properly. I'm in a hurry. Farewell. With that, she heads off and she leaves. Again, I have to explore all the school, then return to the music room once again if I wanted to join me, which is exactly what I did. I finally agreed to her request. Thank you for listening to my request. The truth is, what happened in the school is the work of Izama. He tried to summon demons into the school, but then it all escalated, and essentially, the whole of the school was thrown into Makai instead. Yes, we are now in Makai. We must stop Izama. I wonder, will we be able to stop him, or will the three of us be lost to this forsaken place for all time? Only our actions might tell. In any case, we should leave. Let's go. The three of us? Was the game possibly referencing me again? There were only 2 characters in the game party, so it had to be including me. At this point, I just wrote it off as another little nod to the game acknowledging the player. When I left the music room, this is when the game started to become a rather unsettling experience. Yumi was standing before me, saying nothing beyond ellipses. I wondered if I did something wrong. But suddenly, with a bright flash of light from her sprite, she vanished. In her place was Jack Frost. But I could tell something was very wrong. Jack Frost is the most recognized demon in the series, to the point he's the series mascot. His color and his design of the sprite was very different. He'd usually have a white body, blue hat, and a happy-go-lucky smile on his face. Here he had a dark red hat, and his body colors were inverted. His body was pitch black, and the color for his eyes were white. What stood out most, though, was he didn't have a signature smile. In fact, he had nothing on his face aside from his eyes. It was almost as if his smile was completely erased. She's gone now. She's now with us, and soon, you both shall be with us too. This line obviously spooked me a bit. I'd never seen a Jack Frost like this one, and this was definitely something I've never heard Jack Frost say, or any demon for that matter, say with such a foreboding tone. The Jack Frost then disappeared, having either vanished or ran off somewhere. What made that specific piece of dialogue more unsettling, though, was every part of it was in Japanese writing, except for the word us, which was completely in English. I was a little spooked out, but also fascinated. I've never read anything like this in any of the translated plot synopses of the game that I read, so I don't know if I encountered a rare event, or there was truly something wrong with the game. Despite being a little unnerved, my curiosity was piqued, and I wanted to learn more of just what exactly was happening here. After that unsettling event, the area seemed normal. I decided to just play the game normally and pretend nothing strange had happened. I walked down the hall and entered the gym. The game was playing along normally, as there were remains of an occult ritual laying around the gym, insinuating something was performed there recently. Once I left a student in the hallway that was screaming for help. He was being attacked by a demon. I engaged in battle with it and easily won the fight. Thanks, you really saved me. I'm Sato, president of the computer club. Since we got trapped, I've been trying to gather some information through the computer networks. I managed to connect to this really dodgy network and download a strange program for there. When I tried to use it, the demon came out. I'm quite scared of this program, so I'm just going to give the disc with it to you. You managed to beat that demon, so maybe it'll be safe for you to have this program. But you cannot use it without a computer, and we don't have a portable one in here. This is when I gained the demon summoning option. I was now able to negotiate and summon demons into my party, although since I had none at the moment, the option wasn't useful for the time being. I read in further in another FAQ. I was able to, that I was told to talk to a specific person in one of the people on the 3rd floor. As I led my character across the school and up the floors of the building, I noticed something rather off with the graphics. No glitchy graphics or technical problems, but something that just looked like it didn't belong. As I was walking through the halls, I noticed this black smeared liquid almost leaking out of the walls. I would have simply just said to myself it was part of the game to write off the strange coincidence, but there was just something in the back of my mind that was telling me it wasn't supposed to be there. And as I arrived at the classroom named 2H on the 3rd floor, a man appeared telling me he had a portable computer for me to utilize a demon program. He did so, and I gained the auto map and analyzed features. I left the room after gaining the new options and returned to the 1st floor of the main hallway. As I saw a familiar face appear before me, it was the main villain. Something was direly wrong, though. Instead of the pearl white uniform, his clothes were completely black. In fact, the whole body was completely black except for the eyes. They were completely white and devoid of life. I am the one who was once Izama. I am no longer a mere high schooler. I am one of them. They are the only answer. We will all be one with them soon, and there's nothing you can do. Even you who hide behind that woman's eyes. All is for naught. I was getting nervous. He clearly was referring to me with that final line of knowing that Tamaki is not in control of her own actions. The main part, though, is that the final sentence was once again in complete English, like the us line. All is for naught. What did he mean by that? This question would linger in my mind even far after the whole situation had finished. He then vanished as quickly as he appeared, the black moldy substance oozing out of the wall was now decorating the walls in a bigger mass, almost as if it was taking over everything. As I walked down the main hallway, there was no main door at the end, and I turned around and entered a random fight. The same invented and emotionless Jack Frost appeared. I decided to engage in the fight and attack, and as I did, it didn't have any effect. You can't fight us, you can't resist us. We are all that's left at the end. He spoke another chilling line with us in English again. The fact that pieces of dialogue weren't even in the native language wasn't even bothering me now. I was finding larger things to worry about. After he spoke, he instantly attacked and killed Raiko in one strike. Jack Frost then ran away. 1 second later, after the battle had ended, Raiko was gone. By that, I mean it was almost like she'd vanished as soon as she was killed. Her name and her space in my party was empty. It was literally like she was erased away. She's with us now. Soon, you shall be too. The only conclusion I could draw was when Jack killed her. He also whisked her away somewhere, since I had nowhere to go, and at this point, I knew even a walkthrough couldn't help me. I decided to just do what I could do and try to find a way out of the school myself, or at least try to somehow find out what exactly is happening. Not just in-game, but what's occurring, period. I had it set in my mind at this point that there was no way this was all in-game scripted. This was definitely something happening beyond my comprehension, and my curiosity kept me going. Don't get me wrong, I was a little creeped out, but I felt like I wanted to know what was happening. I decided to return to the starting point of the game, the first floor classroom that my character woke up in. As I did, I encountered another one of the human characters you could recruit, Charlie. He appeared before me as I entered the room. Nobody can resist. We shall all join them someday. No matter what we all do with ourselves, this will make us join them. Now I shall too. As in the case with Yumi earlier, Charlie vanished in the thin air as his sprite flashed a white light. There wasn't any background music with the game anymore, just pure silence. It was almost as if the feeling of loneliness and isolation was setting in. I felt the feeling of total solitude as I started thinking that my character might be the only person left inside the school as I looked around the classroom and noticed that nothing was outside. There was total blackness, no skies, no ground, no scenery, just profound darkness. I instantly left the classroom, had a chilling feeling go down my spine when I saw that nothingness was beyond the window. I know it sounds silly to get creeped out by blackness, but something about the nothing outside the school now just seemed unnatural. As soon as I left, I took a few steps down the corridor and noticed another thing that was missing, the other rooms. All the doors were gone, and when I checked the map, it said that nothing was there, even though I know for a fact that earlier there was indeed other rooms on this floor. In fact, the only rooms that were on the map anymore were the starting classroom and a gym. The rest were just hallways. I felt a bead of sweat go down my forehead at this realization. The game clearly knew what it was doing to me and wanted me to know if it was specifically wanting me from. What it was, I did not know. Most nervous people at this point would simply turn the game off and delete it without a second thought, but I wanted to see this to the end. I'd already come this far, so why not finish it? Even though a faint sense of fear was building up in me, my fascination and overwhelming curiosity kept me wanting to witness more, and as I walked down the hallway, the random encounters kicked in. The first random encounter I ran in was a mere pixie, the weakest demon in the series, but as I selected my attacks, it spoke. Do you think hurting others makes life worth fulfilling? The game clearly wanted me to know more about me personally, as if it was asking these kind of questions from me. As it asked, it gave me this yes-no option. Personally, I don't believe in personally harming others for gain, so I chose no. That's a wise choice, not that it matters whether or not. We will all join them eventually. I was just getting more and more curious as to who they were. Were they a cult, an organization, a group that's responsible for whatever the fuck is going on here? I had no clue. The pixie was then defeated, and as I answered it, and I continued down the hallway, I had a feeling it would give me another strange question to answer, and sure enough, I was right. I encountered another pixie, but this time her dress was purple. Do you feel your life is meaningless and worthless? It gave me another option to choose. I chose no. Of course not. I mean, I do spend most of my days online, but that doesn't mean I feel worthless. I do feel like my life is content the way it is. That's surprising. I think you choose otherwise. Not that it matters. They will come soon. It almost felt like it didn't even matter how I chose my answers at this point. It clearly was hinting at the outcome will always be the same no matter what I chose. I was starting to get a hint about what they were, but I continued on to see if my assumptions could be confirmed. I finally came upon the doorway to the gym. I summed up my courage to enter and see what was in store for me. I entered through. Instead of coming across a gym, I was in a long, deep, purple-colored hallway. All along the walls of the walkway were black ooze seeping from the ceiling of the hallway, with messy paper notes taped and stapled all over the hallway, each containing a lone character. As I walked down the hallway, I kept reading the notes as I passed by, piecing the letters together. All is for naught, 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 all is for naught. It was a phrase, all is for naught, being repeated over and over again. I was at a loss of words as to what was going on. I just pressed onwards, hoping that things would eventually straighten themselves out and start making sense, and after about 2 minutes of walking down a linear hallway, I encountered a jumpy moment. For a split second, the hallway was replaced with pure blackness. The screen was completely black except for Jack Frost's lifeless white eyes in the center of the screen, staring back at me with a gaze so piercing, it was like he stared into my spirit for a second. Another piece of text appeared. You may not join today or tomorrow, but someday you will join us. This is when my fear started to set in. The foreboding wording of that text box sent chills down my spine. I turned behind to see if I could go back to the original school hallway, but to my surprise, there wasn't even a hallway behind me anymore, just a wall. It was like the game was leading me to my desired destination, even as if I moved, the automap started erasing the hallway behind me. It was inevitable I would walk to the end, but I was starting to get nervous to see what I would witness by the end of this. I finally came upon a red door. I had a feeling, or at least somehow knew for a fact, that the end of these strange happenings would be beyond that door. My fear of what was beyond was getting me nervous, but my curiosity for what was behind the door was much more dominant. I was so puzzled and curious about what was beyond the door that my anticipation for what almost making me excited. I took a deep breath, calmed down, and finally opened and entered through. Total emptiness. Nothing but blackness. Even though it was black, I pressed on the button and made sounds that meant I was walking somewhere. So I continued to walk through the boundless darkness as text appeared, as somebody was talking to me from me somewhere in the dark. It's so cold, so dark. This is where you stay when you join us. Isn't it horrible? It torments us. I won't lie, I was getting rather scared at this point. It was speaking in a cryptic tone. Whoever was speaking anyways. It was indeed awful. I would never imagine that merely fumbling around in an endless abyss in a video game would provoke such an awful feeling of dread in me. It's so dark. I hate it, 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 I hate it. There was no denying I was genuinely frightened by what was happening. There was nothing I could do besides move onwards, though. Which is exactly what I did. I moved forward determined to face the blackness. As I moved for a minute or so, the inverted Jack Frost appeared once more. He was black himself, he blended into the background, he looked like a mere white eye staring back at me, like earlier in the purple hallway. You've reached the end. I'd say congratulations, but there's nothing to be cheery about. This is what it's like to be at the end. It doesn't matter how you struggle or what you do with yourself, you'll join us here, forever. Just then, 4 other pairs of eyes appeared. All I could tell was that they were most likely the sprites of the other characters from the game. Hazama, Yumi, Charlie, and Rico were most likely the ones standing behind Jack Frost. I knew Rico was one of them since I could see the sprite for her glasses. Nothing but her glasses showed in the darkness. Now is not yet time for you to join us. You will someday. Now you know what awaits at the end. Nothing. Always remember this. All is for naught. Again, all the dialogue was in Japanese except for us, and all is for naught. Suddenly, as he finished saying that, the game cut to black. I reset it, pressed buttons, tried playing around with the graphical options, even observed the file itself, and instead the file became corrupted. It was literally like the game served its purpose and refused to further function. I sat back in my chair, both out of relief and disbelief. I was happy the whole ordeal was over, but I was more dumbfounded by what I was subjected to. My assumption was correct in what I thought they truly were. Death. It should have been obvious from the start, but I was just too overwhelmed from what was happening to pay clear attention to that. Death is inevitable. It will all come to us someday. No matter how much we fight, it doesn't even matter if you make it big or make your whole life worthwhile. We join the dead eventually. If death is really just that, pure nothingness, it truly is quite a terrifying concept. I don't know if the game did that just to show me the concept of death, or if it truly was a hack of the game that somebody made as a sick fucking joke. But nonetheless, the whole situation left an impact on me. After sitting there for a couple minutes, processing the thoughts in my mind, all kinds of thoughts that were brought on, I deleted the ROM and word processor program and never thought of it again. So as I sit here before you a month later, writing all this down and chronicling to you what happened to me, you might be asking yourself, what was the point? Come to think of it, I don't know myself. I merely just started rethinking about all this a couple days ago. I thought writing all this for the world to see could give me some closure to know other people know about this too. Be it for your own entertainment, or you somehow did feel like you learned something out of reading this, I hope it was at least worth it for all of you. It was for me, since one good thing did come out of it. It made me realize how precious and wonderful life is, and I should never take it for granted. You never know when it might get cut short for you. I'm pleased to say nothing out of the ordinary of what you considered supernatural happened to me since all this happened, and life's been normal and nothing's happened, which, all things considered, I've struck out lucky. I'm still an avid fan of Shin Megami Tensei. Even after all that was done, I'm still planning on playing the unofficial English translation of it when that translation group finishes it, mostly because I downloaded another ROM a couple days ago and replayed through the beginning and the game plays normally. None of what I listed over happened, so I don't know if it was truly just a hacker's joke or if there was something beyond my comprehension communicating with me that night. Nonetheless, it was an experience that I won't soon forget. Holy hell, that is one of the longest creepypastas we've read. Don't blame some of you for going too long, didn't watch, but overall, what did I think about it? It was quite nice. A little too long for my taste, but, you know, I gotta, you know, just let that slide because it really had good build-up. Now, as far as cliches go, I don't really notice anything, and even if they were there, the mood is still alive and healthy. Phenomenon-wise, I thought it was well done, and there was nothing about the game that screamed fake. It's all stuff I could see in a hacked or altered ROM, you know, different animations kind of coming if you really had a strong community around it, and Shin Megami Tensei does have a strong community. And considering the nature of the game series, this kind of stuff, you know, that was mentioned in this game can even somewhat fit into the game too, and if you were playing for the first time, I guess. Now, those with more knowledge on the franchise are free to add their thoughts below in the comment section. By no means am I a Shin Megami Tensei expert. I looked into the translation issues that were mentioned, and I really couldn't find any issue in the translation community. Granted, I saw multiple patches, typically for game bugs and whatnot, but for the most part it just seemed to be quite playable for English audiences. And so for an overall technical analysis, I really think it fits the bill and works out in the end. There's nothing just overtly stupid going on in this creepypasta, and it looks like it is technically feasible. And that's very important when you're working on something like this in a game. Now, for the idea of the whole thing leading up to death, it just feels pretty meta. I mean, you start off with your journey aimlessly going from place to place. Well, not entirely aimlessly, but you're looking for this thing or group, which ultimately just turns out to be death, giving you a grim message that it's just not your time yet, which only scares you further because you know that death could just be blackness or rather an abyss. Truly, it's a terrifying concept that just even scares me to this day when I'm just sitting there thinking about it in my office. Now, in the end, I think this is very well done. The build-up is definitely there. I mean, you actually really want to know what this thing is in the end. It starts to suck you in, which is what a creepypasta should do. It sticks to the true confines of the game, uses elements to its advantage, and it uses an element that is truly terrifying, and that is the Deathly Abyss. It's a really good tale in my opinion. It might be a little too long with the build-up, and the concept make up for it. What would you rate this, and what would you change to make it better? This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Mood Hard. I am out.